We have I think a couple more left here in the virtual roadshow. We had Greg Lee here a couple days ago, who went over, more. It was more product driven. We went over the OLEDs, QNED. This is going to be, I think, more geared towards you guys right up your alley. This is going to be more of a deep dive with integration, all the CI stuff that you probably want to know about LG. So we're excited to have Greg here. I have a poll I'm going to have go live right now. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, go ahead and ask those. We'll try to get through those as best we can. Again, 50 points for being here, 20 points for seeing the recorded version. Make sure you check out the LG booth. They are a platinum sponsor of ours, so we appreciate LG being here. Their first year in the virtual roadshow. Been a fantastic partner of ours now. We're at I think I said it last time, we're at the 1 year anniversary. So I really appreciate everything LG does for us and for you guys. So thanks again, Greg. Really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. All sorts of cool things to talk about.
Very good. Let's get going. I just started the poll.
So let's go. Let's do deep dive. And if you need to get a hold of me post-meeting, you have my contact info. There is my email address. You have my cell phone number. I'll also give you some other contact numbers you can reach out to for our CI sales specialists and technical managers as well. And, of course, you can always hit me up on LinkedIn if you want to connect there as well. Always a good spot. So what we wanted to do here is, instead of just talking product, sort of key features and items you can use within the product to be more successful or handle scenarios or situations from your customers that might need special circumstances or settings. So we'll talk about YLG, then we'll hop into IP control, public display mode, host diagnostics, all built into the set. Also talk about demo content. We get questions, hey, how do I get, content to play on the TV? We give you a couple of options and some resources. Talk real quickly about sound bars, and then also what is the right size TV. We'll give you some formulas you can use very quickly and easily to recommend the right size screen for customers. Talk about setting the TVs up out of the box, picture recommendations, talk about calibrations and always ready. Hopefully have some time for Q&A in there. So today, by the end of all this, you'll learn how to utilize our public display mode to accommodate special situations with customers or certain installations. How to find and use demo content, explain why our LG soundbars are really the best match with LG TVs if you're doing soundbars, and how to prep the TV for a picture that will look great to the customer, because that's ultimately why lots of people buy our TVs. These resources and more that we talked about on Wednesday, still available at Reach LG, which just went over a recent overhaul. We have lots of points for prizes back into the mix, so if you like free stuff, always good. We also now have an app for Reach LG on iOS and Android, so you can go to the App Store for either operating system, look for Reach LG. And we'll talk about Reach LG more, but definitely a great resource. If you haven't signed up yet, please make sure you sign up as a CI dealer, because a lot of the extended resources that we offer that we'll be talking about today are only available if you're signed up as a CI, not a regular dealer. That we're special. We want to make sure that you'll have all the things you need. And as we talked about on Wednesday, YLG, well, from a product standpoint, don't forget we have spiffs that all dealers are accessible to. We have our easy returns program. So if you have initial issues out of the box or shortly thereafter, and you want to take care of the customer because they trusted in you to be the expert, basically you contact the guys and ladies at 21st Century and let them know, hey, we've got a TV that's got a problem. They will initiate the initial return, and essentially they don't have to see the TV. It doesn't have to be shipped back. It doesn't have to be checked out, or you have to wait for somebody to give you a blessing and approval. If it looks like it's defective, we're going to replace it. All you're going to have to do is pull that label and provide that, and we're going to actually tell you to field scrap the TV. And you'll be able to do something very, very quickly, usually with a handful of, not even a handful, 3 days typically, might be a little bit longer around holidays. But yes, want to make sure that we're making it easy for you to get credit and continue to support your customer with our easy return process. You can definitely talk to your account managers about that. Don't forget, we have extended warranty, 5 years of panel coverage on our G4 series OLEDs and all the Gs going back to like G2. And we don't have those external boxes you have to worry about when you're installing them. And if you're really into LG or really growing your business with LG, talk to your sales rep about our Pinnacle program if you're doing a lot of business. Again, for spiffs, us.lgsalesportal.com will get you in, get you signed up and generating those funds. If you haven't used the system in a while and need to get back in, just send an email to spiff.claim@lge.com. But 80% of eligible spiffs never get paid out. So we want to show you the money. Go in, sign up, and make sure you're getting it. All right. So let's go deep with LG's lineup. And one of the things that hopefully y'all are using is an IP control platform with certain installs and customers. And LG is supporting all the majors from Control 4 to Extron, and you can see everything in between. On our 2022 4K and higher TVs, they all have IP control, or actually, it actually goes back further than that. But all 2024 sets with our Alpha 8, which means it's a 4K 120 hertz set, will support an RS-232 port on the back of the set. So if you need something that is guaranteed with a hard wire, anything that's 4K 120, Alpha 8 processor in our lineup will support that. Now, other features that we're getting ready to talk about here is any questions on support or whatnot. And if you do have technical questions, we'll get you the resource. Joe Colombo is our technical guy. But want to talk about public display mode, as we see it over here, and HDMI diagnostics. What are those? Well, if you know LG, you're probably familiar with them. If you're not familiar with LG, this is similar to hotel or hospitality modes, which you might also find on our commercial type products. It's features that are available in everything that we build 2024 and previous years that allows you to get kind of under the hood and set the TV up for certain situations. And we'll talk about what those options are. Now, we have a video on Reach LG, and there are instructions there as well as to how to get into this and what all the different options do, but we're going to cover them here as well. Essentially, all you need, one of our remote controls. If you find, of course, your remote control, and it could be a Magic, it could be an IR remote. I always recommend keeping just an IR remote with you at all times because you can use it on any of the TVs and don't have to pair it up. But just press and hold the settings button on the TV, and what will happen is, as we see here on the screen, the main menu or the main control menu on the set will pop up, but do not let go of the button. Just keep holding it and holding it, holding it, holding it. And you definitely want to be on either the TV tuner or a open HDMI channel when you do this, because what will happen is if you hold it after about 8 seconds, we'll see the channel or the input banner pop up on the set. At that point, what you need to do is punch in 1105 quickly, and that will bring up the public display mode menu. Like I said, we have instructions on doing this and all the features and functions on Reach LG. So when that menu opens up, first off, if I'm going to use it in public display mode, I have to turn that feature on. Now, this might turn off, will turn off the always ready function. But if you have somebody that's putting this like in a doctor's office, maybe you're putting a museum, a library, could be any number of situations. I'll tell you some unique ones. This is where you most likely use this capability. Now, number one, if you have a bunch of TVs that are being installed and they don't want to have to sit there and turn them on with the remote or physically, you can turn the power on status to 3 different selections. So that means that if you pull power at the plug, when power is restored, it'll either go to power, go to standby, or whatever it was doing previously, it'll return to that state. So if you have a bunch of TVs that are set up and you want them controlled with master power, just put them on the power switch or last. That should keep things pretty consistent. Also have volume settings that you can set up on the set. If you're setting this up maybe in a doctor's office where they want to play, medical videos on it, they may want it to come on at a certain volume level. So you can set that here. I can set the level that it comes on at. I can also set a minimum volume so they can't turn it down where it's completely silent, nor can they crank it up to where it's just going to be obnoxious. So maybe you set it starts at 30 and runs between 20 and 40. So that makes it nice. We have key management, which this allows you to activate or deactivate IR control. So if these are set up in an establishment that maybe is showing sports, you could block all IR operations so somebody doesn't come in with one of those automatic remotes and shut off all the TVs at the biggest play of the big game, as they say. Or use it where it just allows power only, but no other IR functions work on it. Gives you some flexibility. Same thing with local keys. So the powering the set on the button on the bottom, you can block that or use it just for power only. So that is key management. Now, I know, answer me this in the Q&A or chat or somewhere. How many people here don't use the smart TV platform built into the TVs that you install with certain customers? And the reason that I ask that is if you're one of those dealers that likes to set up with maybe an Apple TV or a Roku or something else, our question that we get all the time is, hey, could you just make me a LG TV that I can make dumb? Great smart TVs, but I just want it to be a dumb, monitor television, essentially. And the answer is yes. If you're using public display mode, you can go in under the limited area, the limited mode, and you can deactivate the setup menu. Channel changing. You can disable menus. You can disable on-screen display, no notifications, nothing's going to pop up when the customer is watching the set. And you can activate system provider mode, which means that even though I'm not allowing accessibility to all the features and functions of the smart platform, I still will have access to picture and audio settings. So it is running like an old school television that you just had picture and sound settings and nothing else. So that is under limited mode. If you want to set it up that you don't accidentally have the customer punching a button, all of a sudden you get our smart platform when they're trying to run Apple TV. We get it. Okay, so power on defaults. What does it do when it comes on? You can tell it to go to a specific HDMI input. You can have it turn on to a specific channel. And you can lock the aspect ratio. Maybe it's 4:3 content they're showing, in a museum or something that they want to keep 4:3 and not stretch it. You can lock down the aspect ratio on the set. And if I set up HDMI 1 as the default when I put the TV on, you have on the aux source setting the ability to allow connections to aux or HDMI inputs 2, 3, and 4, or whatever the input options are on the set. If you don't have or don't expect anybody's going to be connecting to those, or they're wanting to block them so they're not utilized, well, then you can turn them off. And then last but not least, there is power management that once the TV turns on, if it doesn't receive any sort of command or control input, it will shut itself off in anywhere from 1 to 7 hours, depending on what you set it at. Or you can just turn it off and it will be manually turned on or off, or master power, or of course IR, IP control, and all that fun stuff. A couple other things I do want to note here, because I don't think I have those. Yeah, I think I'm missing a slide. But you can go in and set a password on TVs that you install. You could set up a password per job, or maybe one for your company specifically to lock the TVs down once they are all set up. And then here's another one. Maybe you're setting up a bunch of TVs for a install, and they all need to be set up the same, where they respond to the power the same way, that they all go to HDMI 1 because you're going to use distributed audio and video. Well, to manually go into public display mode and have to manually adjust every setting on every set is a time-consuming process. We get that. What's exciting is with USB cloning that we show up here in the upper left, Once I get one TV set up the way I need to set it up, I can then export those settings to a USB drive. Then on every other subsequent TV, instead of going through and making all the adjustments manually, I immediately jump to USB cloning, put the USB drive in, import the settings, pull the drive, and move on to the next TV. Make sure that you're consistent, because invariably you're going to get a phone call and somebody's going to disrupt the setup of one of the TVs and you're going to throw something wrong, which throws a monkey wrench. So USB cloning makes it faster, easier, and make sure that you're 100% consistent across the line. There is a set ID setup. And when I was in Atlanta, I would talk with a dealer, and maybe you're on the call today, that you had a customer that had 4 LG TVs, all with Magic remotes. They didn't want IP control, but they wanted to be able to control all the sets with the 4 independent remote controls. Well, power, we're going to send globally. It's an IR command, but you can set the ID here and also in the regular TV menu. So you can make top corner, top left, TV 1, top right, TV 2, bottom left, TV 3, bottom right, TV 4. And once that happens, once the TV's on, any function other than power is married to that specific TV. So you can have 4 different independent controls doing all the different features and function, and they won't cross over. So set ID setup is in the public display mode or can be done in the TVs as well. And last but not least, we have IP control setup. This is where you would activate Control 4 with SDDS or any of the other IP control platforms. But we did move this to our regular menu. So if you go into our regular menu on our TV, go to General. In fact, I think I can actually show you that. Oh, it's flipped. Well, that's funny. Oh, It is. It's flipped. So let's see if we can.
You might need to stop sharing your screen. What are you trying to do, Greg?
All right, let's try it like that. Okay, so if I go here, go under menu.
Greg, can you switch your screen? I think we could just see the presentation.
Can you see the TV screen?
Well, it's in your. Can you change where you're sharing your screen to that, or just stop sharing your screen?
Let me stop for a second.
Yeah.
All right, let's try. Window. Oh, I see what's going on. Here we go.
I need to switch the screens. Yeah.
So I had to switch screen. Sorry about that. So here we can see that if we go into the general setting in the regular menu, or wait. I'm sorry. I think it's support. And then just go down. The controls for IP control setup are here. So this will get you into setup for Control 4, Crestron, Extron, URC, Savant, all the above. And we can see activating Wake on LAN, and then network IP control needs to be turned on. And then we generate the key code here. Probably, if you're doing this already, this is all second nature. So all key stuff. All right, let me have to stop the share and then share again. This is a different platform that I'm used to, so my apologies. All right. I think I've got it worked out from here on.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
All right. So any questions on LG's IP, well, the IP control or the public display mode, which is in everything from our entry-level 4K sets all the way up to our 8K OLED and everything in between?
How do I get out of public display mode to make changes or service TV for customers? If you want to go, that's the last question.
How to get out of it?
Yeah, if you go to the last, go to the last Q&A question. That's what it looks like.
Oh, okay, got it. Oops, I'm going too fast. Basically, the same thing. You just go and sign into it. And we found that we had actually locked ourselves out of IR control when I was in Atlanta. But if you do it with a IR remote, not a magic remote, we were able to get right back in. So that IR $7, you can get it offline from just about anywhere, LG basic remote is a great thing to keep in your back pocket because it'll work on all the TVs and allow you input and output. But same thing, you just sign in like you did to set it up and then just turn it off on the main menu on the first screen here. And Philip asks, is it on all models? Yes. How many TVs can we do with ID? 1 to 99. So quite a few. All right. Another thing, if you ever happen to be somewhere and you're doing HDMI distribution, but you're plugged into the set, it's a longer cable, you're not sure if it's providing the signal that you need, but you didn't bring your HDMI tester. Maybe you're trying to check and see if Wi-Fi is connected to the TV. Instead of going and getting testers, you can literally go under our host diagnostics. Essentially, you go into the TV menu, you go under general, TV tuning, and then channel tuning. You just hover there and press 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, just keep pressing 1, and then this menu will actually pop up on the screen. So you can see that it has Wi-Fi status, it has your HDMI, DVI status. So it'll let you know, is it connected to a signal? Is there something feeding into it? If this isn't reading out with a resolution and a frame rate matching what's supposed to be there, then it's probably somewhere in between the TV and the set. But it'll let you know if it's receiving an actual HDMI signal. Shows you if you're connected Wi-Fi, also let you know what drives you might have connected as well if need be. We even have a video on ReachLG that'll walk you through this if you want to get familiar with it. Oh, and then I had my information on IP control in the main menu here, so I didn't have to see. I forgot I did all this fun stuff. Demo content. Every once in a while we get questions from dealers. Hey, I've got this TV, but I was wanting to show the customer something and they didn't have Wi-Fi at this location. Typically you're okay, because if you go into our menu, go to support, go to home store mode, and you click it over to store, TVs that come from the factory have demo content files already built into the set. So all you have to do is put it in store mode, back out of it. Don't touch it for about 20 to 30 seconds. It will automatically kick in because it's in store mode. So if that content exists, it will basically pop up and start playing. So that is good. But for regular demonstration, I don't recommend keeping it in store mode if you're connecting up other stuff, because store mode will have the TV defaulting to the vivid picture mode every so often to give it that crazy, bright, intense showroom look at all times. So if you need to show somebody content, you can turn it on. If you want to run it all the time, great. Or if you want to run content separately, check this out. Remember we talked about ReachLG. We just posted here recently accessibility to LG demo content that you can download. So make sure you go to reachlg.com. You can sign in or register as a CI dealer. And once you're signed into the site, just look for this box here. It says 4K demonstration content for both OLED and QLED. Click here to access it. It'll take you to a Google Drive. There's a folder for both types of content. And just take it, download it, and place it on a USB drive. And then from there, all you have to do is open the media player. Once the USB drive is in the TV, open the media player from the app line and find the USB. Well, here we go. Choose the media player. I did all this and forgot to that I had it. Select the proper USB, which there could be multiples, so the right one, and then just click on the first file here, and it'll play back, and it'll just rotate through all the files. If you just wanted to play one file over and over, which we did at an event with the Dallas Cowboys at a signing here recently, you can choose that from the playback options. Otherwise, you can get it to play all, and it'll just cycle through all the files that you have on that USB drive. So free files, play them on the LG TVs. Don't forget, reach LG. And of course, that is where you'll find it on the custom installation portal. And speaking of CI integration, if you ever run into a issue, we have a technical manager, Joe Colombo, who's been with us a number of years. Joe's awesome. But if you run into something where OPPO player is not behaving right with a Denon receiver and LG TV through IP control or something, Joe's your guy. He's got a lot of contacts throughout the industry. So if there's an issue, he can actually call other companies and they can work on issues together. His number is here at 833-288-8397. You'll find him Monday through Fridays. And if it's something less, concerning, you can just send him an email at joe.colombo@lge.com. If you have general questions about product or other items, you can also reach out to our custom installation sales team headed up by Brad Streets. Brian Butler is our West Region CI sales manager or account manager. George Jimenez, and Brian has the West all the way up to Texas. George has the Central, including Florida, and Don has from Atlanta up the Eastern Seaboard. Their information is here for your support needs. All right. So let's talk a little bit about sound bars. I know, a lot of you probably don't use sound bars or you already have your favorites, but sound bars are actually great at stepping up the game. Number one, for you as a dealer, I understand if you're going to do a system in a main room, a living room, probably going to go will be bigger, more dramatic, something substantial. But every other TV in the house could seriously benefit from audio enhancement or an audio attachment, whether that's a surround sound system, a sound bar. Audio coming from today's TVs is usable, but it's certainly not as experiential as a better audio system. And if we look at, sound as it relates to, entertainment, George Lucas is probably right when he says sound is 50% of the movie going experience. And if we think about it, how much content is there out there in 5.1 or better? It's basically everywhere. So if the customer is just watching through their TV, they're really missing a lot of what today's programming offers. And you don't even get a chance to see a lot of new releases at movie theaters. I mean, what was it? The new Roadhouse never made it to the theater. There are movies on Netflix. Neither of the Extraction movies made it to the theater. They were directly on Netflix. They're both great. A lot of action, a lot of surround sound. It's a lot more involving if you have great sound. And what sound bars are designed to really solve are dialogue. It's, dialogue is a problem for people a lot of times when they're watching their TVs. We have more sophisticated speakers and they're firing towards you instead of at a wall or down. So you're going to get better direct sound. There's poor down mixing in Hollywood nowadays, and it's hard to hear the mixes because they cram so much stuff. And when you play it through 2 to 4 speakers, it may not be intelligible. And where video really, as we go to bigger screen, fills the entirety of the screen, we really need audio to fill out the room. And in all of this, we've got to make it simple. Customers don't like multiple remotes or complicated controls. They want everything just to be simple, easy, whether that's IP control or a single remote running everything. So if we look at what LG has done with our sound bars, we have what we call our WOW synergy. Wow. And that basically breaks down into 3 things. Number one, we have our WOW interface that when you connect LG TVs and soundbars together, not only do I have HDMI CEC control where I can do volume. It turns on and turns off together as a matched set. So I'm not having to run two remotes to fire everything up. That's the way it should work. We even populate the home hub where you can see the information about the sound bar and everything that's connected up with it. But we even go further where when you control the sound profile or the sound mode on the TV, it actually switches the sound mode on the sound bar. So essentially you can make all your major changes and whatnot and change things up to find what sounds best to you, all with one remote being the TV remote. So simple to use interface as well. And then there's WOW Orchestra. Why is it if you have a sound bar and you have a TV and they all have speakers, you can only typically listen to one or the other? WOW Orchestra via LG TVs and sound bars, when paired up, are actually tuned to give you a bigger, more encompassing experience audio-wise. And everything's in alignment, so you're not going to get weird echoes or lip sync issues or whatnot, but you're getting the full power of the soundbar and the TV speakers working in unison, giving you the best sound between a TV and a matched soundbar. And last but not least, ever run into a situation where we'd like to give the customer better audio, but where they're putting the TV, they don't want to run wires? Well, Wowcast, which you'll find on any of our TVs with the Alpha 8, which is our QNED 85T or higher, and our sound bars with Wi-Fi starting at the the S80T series and higher, and the SC9S for the C OLEDs. Basically, we can match them up over Wi-Fi with no latency issues, still high resolution audio up to 7.1.4 delivered via Wi-Fi. So you have a situation where, yes, better audio, can't run wires, or there's a situation where running a wire isn't going to be easy to do. Wowcast with LG TVs and soundbars is a viable solution. So those are some cool things that we're doing with our soundbars and TVs when matched up together. And I'm not going to run you through the entire line, but seriously, from our S60T 3.1, so you get a dedicated center channel, can dramatically step up the audio experience for any TV that a customer is purchasing. I can't imagine a TV would sound better than the sound bar that's out there in the market. So it's definitely going to be an audio upgrade. And then we offer things like up-firing center channel speaker for better raised dialogue, where you can hear it from the front firing and the up-firing speaker for better clarity. And we have surround solutions with up to 3 to 5 up-firing speakers, anywhere from 5 to 9 drivers around you. We can create an amazing Dolby Atmos DTS:X sound bubble that really encompasses the customer. And we used to have a soundbar app for all this, but the soundbar app is now moving to LG's ThinQ app. So it'll be the same app for your TVs and your soundbars as our appliances. And we even have specific soundbar solutions for the C4, which is the SC9S, or what we call soundbar C, a 3.1.3 soundbar that has its own matching mount to drop onto the TV when it's wall mounted, and a kick plate that you can use the soundbar as the stand for the TV if it's a 55 to 77 inch C OLED. Or if the customer is into the G series, our top performing OLED, we have our SG10 TY, which you can see here cosmetically matches up. So if somebody's putting this in a really nice decorated bedroom, they want better sound quality, but they don't want big system. They want something that's going to sort of disappear into the decor. This soundbar is a perfect match, and you still have Wi-Fi connectivity with Wowcast, so you don't even have to run wires for HDMI. Just give the soundbar and the TV power, give me an internet connection, and we're good to go. Any questions on LG soundbars?
Yeah, looks like there's a few here. Are the rear or back speakers wireless plus power?
Yeah, so the rear or back speakers, or you could put the surrounds to the sides and the front and fire them at the walls to create a bigger, sound field or sound space. Are powered. You plug in one and run wire to the other is the way that we typically set those up. Except for our S95 TR, our top level soundbar, it's power on both speakers. Oops. It's actually power on, just plug them into the wall, AC power to both of those. HDMI 2.1, I believe that starts for sure the S80 soundbar. Not only is it support 2.1, it'll support up to 120 hertz with variable refresh rate if you're running a game system through it to your TV as well. Although my recommendation for soundbars, use the eARC on the TVs because you're going to get full specification and whatever's running through the apps in the TV, and then run inputs to either the other HDMI inputs if you're doing direct and using sound bar as your only audio solution. Otherwise, you don't lose an input with most of our sound bars because you do have that full high performance pass through on the sets. So, Wowcast works over Ethernet as well. No, it's designed specifically to work with Wi-Fi, no latency, and high resolution delivery of 7.1.4. All great questions. Awesome. All right. All right, so let's talk TVs and sizing. As you see here, we have our new 98-inch QNED, our biggest TV this year. The question is, what is the optimum viewing distance of a 98-inch television? Anybody have a good calculation or a good way to figure what is optimum? And why is it optimum? Well, what I'm going to tell you is if you listen to the governing bodies that are out there, SMPTE, even the folks at THX say that you want to feel a certain percentage of your vision, up to about actually 40-degree field of view is what they say will give you great immersion and really draw you into what you're watching. Question is, well, what does 40 degrees mean to me, somebody sitting at home? And there's actually a real simple calculation you can use. Everybody's 10 fingers, 10 toes. Well, remember rule of 10, right? Basically, take your screen diagonal and divide it by 10, and that will give you a 40-degree field of view. Or the customer is sitting 6.5, 7.5, 8.5, 10 feet away from where the TV is going to go. Take their viewing distance in feet, multiply that by 10, and that will give you a optimum 40-degree field of view in diagonal in inches. So at about 10 foot away, you need about about 100 inches to really immerse yourself into the image. And hey, who can blame them? But the question then becomes, if we're doing this by field of view, should we be worried that the image will look soft or fuzzy when watching 4K? And the answer, no, actually not at all. In fact, there's more resolution with rule of 10 than average humans will be able to fully realize. So someone with a 20/20 vision will not see the full image resolution at rule of 10 because we're actually too far away. So what if we wanted to get the full resolution available in a 4K signal? We wanted to sit as close, we consider every nuance and detail available in the picture. Well, that would be rule of 15. So think 2 hands and a foot. Rule of 15, you're actually sitting right at the precipice of where somebody with 20/20 vision can realize the full resolution. So the key thing here is that most people tend to think incrementally, although customers seem to be migrating a lot bigger than they had in years past because 4K does look so good. But if they're looking for a proper size, you can go anywhere from rule of 10 to rule of 15, which means that, in a 10-foot viewing distance, you could go with our 98, or you could sit as close as about 6.5 feet from our 98-inch or 97-inch OLED. Typically, customers choosing a smaller TV wish they had gone bigger anyway. So instead of recommending they were in a 55, go to a 65, or they were 65, go to 75, let's figure out how far they sit away, use the rule of 10, and get them in a proper sized set. 1/2 the screen size. The height of the screen by 3 minus or twice the. I like rule of 10 because it's simple. Give me viewing distance, give me 10. I know how many inches. Give me a size screen, 65 inches, divide by 10. I know I need to be about 6.5 feet away. Simple, easy, quick, and endorsed by industry bodies.
How about any by questions?
What's that? FEMA? Oh, no, we don't talk FEMA. FEMA's a bad word.
I said feel. Somebody by feel. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the trick is you probably can't go too big for most people. Quite the opposite. All right. Sounds like a lot of. Oh, come on, Harold. Seriously. You can do times 10 or divide by 10, I'm sure.
That's a lot of math.
Yeah, I like simple. Rule of 10. I can do that. It's like 1 and then add a 0. All right. So let's talk about setting our TVs up out of the box. Now, when you pop a TV out of the box, it's to make, energy requirements and whatnot is set in a mode that isn't going to provide the TV with its best intensity. So the first thing you want to do on any LG TV, if you're not doing this already, is go into the menu, go under general settings, go to energy savings, and whatever set it's on, you turn it off. Immediately, you're going to see the TV get much more bright and more dynamic. And I feel sorry for those customers who take their TVs home and have no idea that this affects, lots of the sets out there. Now, if you're looking for accuracy, there are multiple modes that we have for SDR content, HDR, and Dolby Vision. If you go with the filmmaker, the cinema, or those labeled ISF, those are going to be, accurate, tuned to what the industry utilizes when they're creating content out in Hollywood. Same thing for HDR10. And notice I said SDR and HDR10. Yes, if you're watching SDR, it has its own set of picture modes. So whatever picture mode you select for non-HDR content, 1080p, whatnot, that's what it's going to lock in on. What happened there? It's weird. Can you still hear me? I disappeared.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, I'll just keep talking.
You're frozen, but we hear you.
That is weird. All right. So secondly, we've got Dolby Vision, which is what Hollywood uses. But again, you're going to have to select a picture mode that best suits the customer for it. So you need to choose the right mode for them for SDR, HDR10, and Dolby Vision content. And each input has a picture mode for each one of those that locks down. So just as a start point, I usually start with filmmaker and cinema and then brighten them up. So let's talk about how do I brighten up the image on the TV, because we know customers like bright. They want to be moths to a flame. So if we go under picture menu, advanced settings, and then go to brightness, this is the picture menu section. The OLED pixel brightness on the OLED TV sits usually around 80. If you crank it up to 100, it will dramatically increase the luminosity and the brightness of the set. If you're on one of our QNED or LEDs, it's going to ask you about panel brightness. Again, you're going to crank it up to maximum. And on those sets, you'll also get an LED local dimming setting. You've got off, low, medium, and high. Max is usually going to be your best choice. It'll give you better contrast and will have typically the best brightness on it as well. Now, contrast. Anybody know what contrast is? It's essentially mislabeled. They should have called this white. So if you want to make the white or the peak highlights, the bright areas, the picture brighter, contrast goes to the max. And we're actually really good at not clipping them, so I don't have a problem running contrast all the way to 100 on our sets. The next thing to control is black level. Now, out of the box, it's pretty accurate, but black level is, again, you'll usually call it brightness, but black level sets how dark black is, and how much shadow detail you see. In a bright room, you could turn black level up and see more shadow detail. In a dark room, you might want to bring it down to give you a better floor for black. We also have auto dynamic contrast, which is off by default. If you're in a bright room, you want a little bit better shadow detail, you can turn it on low. I'm not a big fan of going medium or high. And on the OLEDs, there's a peak brightness setting. I always, if you're customers, they typically want it bright. You definitely want to take it to high. Last setting in this menu, gamma, is usually set to 2.2 or BT 1886 for non-4K or SDR stuff. Those are fine. If you're in a dark room, you can go to the higher number. Or if you're in a bright room, which is probably the more likely scenario, it'll help bring up shadow detail and midtones in a bright room if you go to 1.9. And then your HDR signals, I would leave the dynamic tone mapping on, especially if you're watching in a bright room, because it'll give all bright and dark HDR content lots of visual pop. And then the expression enhancer on the OLEDs, typically, again, brightness will bring out even more pop. So you can see all the things that can be adjusted to peak up and get the most brightness out of all the different sets that are out there. For color, 50 is usually pretty good. If you want people to look like Oompa Loompas, crank it up to 100. If you want to turn all movies black and white, you turn color depth to 0. So it's a matter of finding the balance. More color it's actually more saturated. You turn the numbers up if you want it less saturated, but 50 usually is pretty good. Tint, I very rarely mess with, but it changes the hue of the image. But color gamut is something that I find interesting. If you leave it on auto detect, it's fine. It'll tune the TV color to SDR and HDR automatically. But if you want your Blu-rays to look more like they are HDR or 4K color, you can switch it to native and it will do a color up conversion, converting HD to match DCI P3 or the 4K color standard that's typically used when creating content. And then last but not least, color temperature. If you want an accurate image, you want to go warm 50 or as low and warm as the TV will allow for that picture mode, because that's the closest setting to what they use standard-wise out there. Now, some people prefer a cooler, bluer. It's a little bit more appealing to, customers sometimes. So you can take the color temperature up to cool 50 if it allows, but essentially you're changing the color of white in the set. And then last but not least, if you go to the clarity settings, I pretty much turn, sharpness, it defaults to 10, but I wouldn't, if you want a little bit more edge, I'd go up to maybe 23, but nothing above that. But super resolution, noise reduction, MPEG noise reduction, I turn all of those off. And smooth gradation, I turn it off if I'm using a quality connection or source. Maybe go to low if there's any banding where you see, like in a blue sky, you see like stripes of blue in proximity to one another. I would only turn it on there. And then last but not least, true motion, cinematic movement. If they're a purist, leave it off. Natural is good for sports, and smooth will just make everything look like it was shot on high frame rate video. But if you're watching any movies and whatnot, cinematic movement is probably my favorite and has actually been getting a lot of positive feedback in the reviews that are out there as being one of the best in matching our biggest competitors out there. And if you wanted to unleash the full image processing in the set, it's not in the picture mode. You have to go to Menu General, then AI Service. There's AI Picture Pro, AI Brightness, and AI Genre Selection. AI Brightness adjusts the brightness of the screen to the environment. So if you're in a room where they're turning off the lights and they're opening the windows and cranking up the lights, depending on the time of day, this is a good way to keep the TV in tune with the environment. AI Picture Pro employs AI processing, and it's weird that they put it here, but that's instead of in the picture menu. And then AI Genre, whether you're watching sports, drama, concerts, it makes subtle tweaks to the image based on the AI type. And AI Sound Pro will definitely make dialogue easier to hear when you're just watching on the TV. Now, I told you all of that stuff, but we just loaded in today a new document on, hey, Reach LG. It's recommended settings for SDR, HDR, and Dolby Vision for QLED, OLED, and our 810 projectors. And you can go and you can download it and use that as a start point if you want to when you're firing up, trying to get customers into a TV they like. It's actually anti-sharpness. All right. What other questions do we have? Otherwise, I think I got like
yeah.
things, and I'll get you back to your day.
We got another 2 minutes. Let's go through here real quick. See if you could find any here that you haven't answered yet. What is happening with LG's second gen tuner?
We're not doing anything with ATSC 3.0 tuners yet. In fact, we made it disappear and not sure what we're going to do. Nothing new this year. We'll have to see what they decide to do for next year.
Do you know anything about the commercial line? Video.
I'm not familiar with the commercial line.
All right. Let's go up. Let's scroll through here. Wildcast. Okay. No, I think we answered most of them, if not all of them. Right. Now we're going back to the speakers. Can you see any more that you haven't answered?
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Anything else, Greg? We got to get going here in a minute.
I know. So just FYI, LG has received awards as the Hollywood Reference Display. It was actually a technical Emmy. If you do calibration, the reason that we receive that is because of this. From a calibration standpoint of all the sets that are out there, we don't just give you 20 points for black and white, 6 to 12 for color. We give you 1,024 points for black and white, 35,937 color points for color. It's all automated with CalMan from Portrait Display. And you don't even have to have a test tone generator because we can generate the test tones in the set. So you can start deploying calibration inexpensively, but it just kind of shows that I don't want to get too deep into this. It's like a whole another course, but LG offers the most comprehensive calibration of any consumer TV and actually offering professional level calibration. Don't forget that Always Ready starts on our 4K 120 hertz product where you can show artwork, personal photos, video art. So it really becomes integral into your room's design, even when you're not watching TV. So all the 4K 120s have that. And we talked about getting the right picture quality for the customer. All the 4K 120 hertz sets also have that personal picture wizard, which will generate a custom tuned picture profile that's 1 out of 83 million based on what pictures grab the customer's attention as they go through the process of selecting those images that look best to them. Craziness. And on our 4K multi-screen, we can do on the G4 up to 2 HDMI sources simultaneously and have either browser or AirPlay, which could probably get you a third game on the screen simultaneously. But when we do that, we're stuck with webcam or Spotify being our fourth screen. But here is the mixture of screen options that we offer currently on the G4 for the 4-screen multi-view. Reach LG, don't forget it. I'm going to skip that. A lot to cover. Always more to cover. Let us know, or let Mark and Sean know what you'd like to hear us talk about next time around when it comes to all this stuff. We definitely want to get you the information that you need. But don't forget the resources available at Reach LG are definitely the way to go. Our roadmaps are out, so check with your sales rep about what's happening with LG this holiday season. And I'm out. So if you get a chance and want to give us some quick feedback, you can just hit the QR code. Otherwise, Reach LG, your resource. And if you need me, here's my contact info. Thanks, everybody.
You're the best, Greg. Thank you so much, buddy. Really appreciate you presenting today and on, what was it, Tuesday? All these days are flowing together for me. It's been a long week. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We'll see everybody on the next call. Hey, our high scores are now activated on Tetris. So let's see who get the high score in our arcade Tetris this weekend. While the live trainings are over, you're still going to have opportunity to earn more points by visiting the main hall, viewing these trainings, the recorded version of these trainings, and then our arcade is open as well. So you get the high score on Tetris. So we will talk to you guys soon. I believe we have Lutron coming up next. Thanks, Greg.